So we just finished our cabinet meeting this morning. Like you, I have not seen the new case numbers yet, but the indication from public health right now is that they're high again. That is disappointing, and I am still frustrated. I don't know what more I can say to Nova Scotians to make sure they take this issue seriously. Just so you understand, and let me explain the order that I signed last week. It is more restrictive than it was last year. Citizens must stay in their communities. We have imposed $2,000 fines for anyone who leaves their counties to travel. So you can't leave your municipality. If you do, it needs to be essential, or if you're leaving just to go outside to go for a walk, which is okay, you have to stay within your county. That's different from last year when we gave advice to stay in your communities. This is strict legalities we're talking about. Also, we've closed all retail. That's more restrictive than last year. We don't allow any non-essential travel into our province at all. So we're continuously looking at how we can look at restrictions, but people need to cooperate in order for those restrictions to work. I know Mother's Day is this Sunday, and I know that's going to be difficult, but people, please stay home and use your virtual to say hello, or your phone to make sure that you're appreciating what the day is all about and appreciating our mothers. If we want to beat this virus, the only way we can do it is for all of us to do our part. I just wanted to reiterate that before I take your questions today. So I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, we're going to begin with All Nova Scotia's Lindsay Armstrong.
Hi there, Premier. As you mentioned just now, the restrictions evidently are more severe than they were in our first wave to deal with these new high case levels. It was April 6th that you eased COVID restrictions, allowing restaurants, bars, and gyms to open to 100% capacity. This happened when many other provinces were suffering. Do you think Nova Scotia's third wave would be less severe if those restrictions had not been eased?
No, because the cases increased from people not following the 14-day isolation when they came in from outside of Atlantic Canada. We need to make sure that our restrictions are appropriate, or people won't follow them. So as soon as we had increase of cases, we put restrictions in. Actually, I did within days. In February, when I was leader and came into office, we saw cases go up at the Irving Shipyard and other areas. I think we had about 10. We closed off traffic coming in and out of Halifax and made restrictions put in place. Public Health did feel comfortable and proposed that we start to slowly loosen restrictions, and so we did. And then we had another time that we had cases increases, so we didn't hesitate to put the restrictions in. But I can't help it if people don't listen to the 14-day isolation, which is why we went further this time, and we actually closed the borders down. Before we had the 14-day isolation, that evidently wasn't enough for people. So that's why we put it in place, that we just are not allowing, and I understand there's people at the border that can't get in, and we're going to continue to turn people away unless they have an essential reason to come here.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Lindsay.
Thank you for that response. I'm wondering still if there's any thoughts that the actual move to ease restrictions, regardless of what they were, may have allowed people to think that we were in the clear. Are there any concerns there about what sort of could have been done a bit earlier?
No, we have to rely on the evidence that we have before us. Nobody said we were in the clear. We said we always needed to take our restrictions seriously, and that we would always be practical and follow the science. That's what we did from the start of our response, that when we saw activity coming in, that we would act quickly and restrict, and then we would slowly open up. That's what we've done. That's what we'll continue to do.
Next, we'll go to CBC's Mike Gorman.
Thanks. Premier, on Tuesday, your Chief of Staff got an email from one of your MLAs expressing concerns about a recent hire in your office, and in particular his behavior towards her and other female MLAs. When did you learn of that email, and what are you doing to look into the concerns expressed by your caucus colleague?
So there is a process to be followed. I'm not aware of any serious concern. I did know that MLA Miller decided not to run before I became leader. Obviously, I respect her decision not to run again. The email you referenced, I'm aware of. I didn't read it, but if she has issues with any staff, she can certainly speak to that herself.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Mike.
Premier, the email, which I have read, says that this person that you've hired repeatedly treated Ms. Miller with disrespect, and she saw him behave that way towards other female colleagues as well. Given the strong stance that you took during your leadership and now as Premier when it comes to equality issues, don't you think that's something that you should be looking into?
I have zero tolerance for people that don't respect one another. I don't have any claims to suggest that any of the staff that I have don't treat people with respect. I made clear that I would have a role for the staff that existed. This person you're referring to had a job before I became leader, and he continues to have a job.
Next question will go to All Nova Scotia's Brian Flynn.
Hi, Premier. As Mike Gorman mentioned, Margaret Miller informed your chief of staff on Tuesday about concerns she had with this staff member. She said she felt disrespected and that there was misogynistic behavior directed toward her and other women. I'm just wondering, what have you done to respond to these concerns?
So there is a policy in place if there's any serious allegation, as you know, and I've been present at caucus meetings. No issues were raised to me. I expect all staff and MLAs to treat each other with respect when they have disagreements, and I'll let the MLA, I believe she responded to your inquiry, and she can speak to whatever she would like to, and it's as simple as that.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Brian.
Thank you. Have you spoken with Margaret Miller, Premier, about her concerns, and have you tried to find out the particulars of the allegations she's making? And what can you tell us about what you've learned if you have looked into those allegations?
I'm not aware of any allegations.
Next question will go to Global's Elizabeth McSheffrey.
Hi, Premier. This question is for you in your capacity as the Minister for New Affairs. Yesterday was Red Dress Day, and I note that there was no statement sent out from the province. I'm just wondering what you see as the role of the province in combating the MMI-WG2S issue, and what kind of work is happening at the provincial level to address it.
So I did actually put a statement on my social media on that related to a gift that the Mi'kmaq community bestowed upon me when I was a Minister of Lands and Forestry. I value the relationship I have with the Mi'kmaq community, and we all need to do better in our country to fight this issue of missing and murdering Indigenous women. And that's why our government has stepped up more so than most jurisdictions financially, putting together a strategy on how we address this issue. I believe it's a 5-year strategy that we're in the middle of, and we continue to put resources towards helping with this issue.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Elizabeth.
It's been 3 months since you were sworn in. I just wanted to check in, and I'm wondering if you can tell us how it's going so far, how you're managing, and whether there's anything about the job that is or is not what you expected.
Well, COVID's been the focus throughout the whole time I've been in this job. This third wave is concerning to me. We always knew it was a possibility that the variants would come into our province, and now we're just doing our best to ensure that we have the right restrictions and working with public health to get this under control so that we can get through this quickly and have a summer. But obviously it's been a challenge so far, and we continue to be optimistic that Nova Scotians will work together to get through this.
Next question will go to CTV's Natasha Pace.
Thank you. Premier, given the record number of COVID cases, will government consider releasing some prisoners from the Burnside Correctional Facility and other provincial jails in the province?
That hasn't been brought forward to me. I will entertain any recommendation that public health brings forward if it's in the interest of public health. We'll look at that and public safety to ensure that every Nova Scotian, whether they're in a correction facility or another congregate setting, is safe. We want to make sure that every Nova Scotian has a right to be safe from this pandemic.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Natasha.
you. I know you briefly spoke about this during your remarks at the top, but last week, obviously, it was expected by this point this week that case numbers would start to stabilize or lower, and we're still seeing high case numbers. You mentioned you're expecting high numbers again today. What more can we do to try to combat this?
So I have a meeting again, as I do every day, with Dr. Strang. I always have a long list of questions about our epidemiology and what else we could be doing. So we've completely eliminated non-essential travel. We still have people that work in different provinces, rotational workers coming in. That's concerning, and we're continually testing. To be clear, everyone's tested that comes in on day 1 or 2, and workers themselves have to self-isolate even away from their family until they have 2 negative tests. So we have proper controls in place, but we have to really count on Nova Scotians to ensure that they're staying home. We will levy fines. We didn't last year. We're doing it now. I'm aware of already some that have been sent out from people that have left Halifax, but we really need to do a little bit better to stay within our communities. And people need to know that this is, people said COVID 2021. That's COVID 21. This is different than the first wave and second wave with the variants. And if Dr. Strang and Public Health have other restrictions that they think will help, I won't hesitate to put them in.
Next question will go to Keith Doucette with the Canadian Press.
Hi, Premier. This is sort of a COVID-related question as well. While I realize you won't tell us when you'll call an election, given the current situation with COVID-19 and last week's report on election readiness, can you at least tell us within a reasonable time frame when you won't call one? For instance, is it reasonable to assume that you will wait at least until most Nova Scotians are fully vaccinated sometime in September?
Well, I'm certainly not entertaining an election call while we're facing the most serious time of our pandemic. I think that would not be appropriate. We're continuing to do our best to keep people safe and telling people to stay home. So I'm not, respectfully, I'm not thinking about an election call while we're facing this wave.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Keith.
Yeah, and in that same report, the Elections Nova Scotia pointed out the changes to the Elections Act that have not been proclaimed that would allow e-ballots for military members stationed outside the province, and digital. And there's also a digital pilot project, I believe, for advanced polls. What's the holdup there, and do you plan to make those changes fairly soon?
Yeah, those changes, they'll be proclaimed soon. We had priorities getting through the legislature, passing a budget, and now this third wave, but there's no reason why that won't go through within the next days or a week or two.
Next question will go to Jennifer Henderson with the Halifax Examiner.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jennifer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great. Premier Rankin, we're still seeing a lot of advisories from flights coming into Stanfield. Can you tell us if or when the province will set up rapid testing for all travelers at the airport?
I continue to pose that question myself to see if that would be the most appropriate mechanism to have people access tests. Every single person that flies into that airport gets a test either on day 1 or day 2. We follow the protocols in place. I will always look for opportunities to tighten that up, to make sure that the tests being offered are the most effective way to ensure that they don't have COVID. As Dr. Strang has said numerous times, we don't want someone to get off the plane, get a test, if it's negative, feel like they don't have to self-isolate. So that's the continued conversation, because we have other borders too on our land. So all of those things are part of the discussion where the most effective way is to test people. We're now talking about tests that people can take home. But at the end of the day, Nova Scotia stands up as the leader in the country per capita, how much we're testing, and that includes our travelers.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Jennifer.
A follow-up with respect to, I guess, the long view at this point, the summer. But have you thought about under what circumstances fully vaccinated Americans and Europeans who own property here in the province might be permitted to come here this summer? What circumstances would have to exist to welcome those visitors?
Well, we're going to have to, that's a national discussion, bringing people from outside of the country. We do look at the evolving evidence from the federal government, Health Canada, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, that speaks to the effectiveness of getting your first dose of vaccine. Obviously, there is some anecdotal evidence that that cases are going down in jurisdictions with high vaccination. So all those things are of continuous conversation. Right now, we're in a third wave. We're not thinking about when we'll be allowing people into this province. We're thinking about how to control the spike that we have in cases right now.
Next question will go to CBC's Jean Laroche.
Good morning, Premier. I need you to square a circle for me. You say you have zero tolerance against people who are disrespectful to one another, and that you say there are no claims that people have done that, or you're not aware of any allegations. With respect, sir, your minister actually sent a letter to your chief of staff. That is those are allegations, and I don't hear you saying you're doing anything about it. So help me out here. What are you planning to do in light of these allegations?
So I don't have any specific allegations. I've been president at caucus. Everyone knows that I have an open door policy. If they have issues, there is a policy indeed, in fact, to how to present issues of concern. And I do expect everyone to be treated, whether there's disagreements on issues, that everyone treats each other with respect. If you have questions on any specifics, I would suggest you talk to the person that authored the email.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Jean.
Unfortunately, sir, she will not talk to any of us. So I'm putting it to you. She has made allegations in this email to your chief of staff. If you don't feel these are specific allegations, then how would you characterize her message to your chief of staff?
I would suggest that if somebody has an allegation of a staff member, to bring it forward to me or follow the process.
Great.